And I never.
Hello, you are listening to Bad Marriage Radio. Of course, as always, the bad stands for bodacious and desirable. And this is the show where we interview couples from all walks of life to try to understand and discover exactly what makes relationships work. We also interview experts in different areas of relationships in order to draw out just those keys to a successful relationship. And I'm your host, Rashad Garrett, with my beautiful co-host,
Felicia Stallworth. Everybody, how you doing?
Right. And you're listening on TMI Radio. And so we have a very, very special show for you today. Absolutely. It's all about, of course, improving marriage, improving your relationships. And this is very interesting. The couple that we have today, they wrote an incredible book, which I just read a couple weeks ago, or began reading a couple weeks ago, and it was much better than I expected. I don't know why I didn't expect it to be great, but when I read it, I was like, this is really good. This is very good, useful information. So, and I was very touched about a lot of things in it because they really got into like the deep stuff, you know, and so.
Awesome. Well, I am very delighted to have Shirron and Anderick Biddle in the studio today. They are longtime friends of mine, and of course, I wanted them to be on the show first, but life didn't go that way. And so I'm so delighted and so excited to have them here. And I just want to give you a quick introduction to this amazing couple. We really just want to take most of the show and just dive into all the many questions that we have for them. But I just want to give you a little background for them. Anderick and Shirron met back in college. They are college sweethearts, and they've been together and married for 13 years. They have are natives of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I don't know why I said that, because Milwaukee is really going through some things right now. Let's send our love and prayer out to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But they have been living here in Fort Worth, Texas for the last 8 years. They are the parents of 4 amazing, beautiful, talented children. And they are authors, teachers, speakers, instructors. They are lovers of life, lovers of marriage, and they are amazing people all the way around. And so I'll be honest, like, I have always known that they are wonderful, amazing people, like particularly Shirron. Anderick, you are right. But Shirron, he's a mama. But Shirron, I have always known her to be this beautiful, amazing person on the inside and out. Talented, gifted, spiritual, just a wonderful person. But I'll be honest, when I read your book, I was like, she's amazing. Like, it made me want to get married. I read her book and I just was so inspired by what you wrote. And I was like, I know her. It made me feel special. I was like, I know this woman. This is so amazing. And Andrew, when I've read your books as well, I felt like, you know, when you know somebody, you know them, you feel like you somebody because you know them. That's how I felt. That's how I feel when I read you all's information and all of the things that you put out. It is truly inspiring. And I honestly feel honored. You ever feel honored that you know somebody? That's honestly how I feel. And so we want to introduce our listeners to you all so they can glean from the wealth and all of the information that you have that you have gained through your marriage and your relationship and where you are today. They are truly, what you all will hear today is truly who they are. And I'm so honored to introduce to you Anderick and Shirron Biddle.
Yeah.
Great to be with you guys.
Very humbling introduction.
I know, right?
You know, y'all have to live up to it.
Right, exactly. I'm not even sure what to say now at this point. Like, wow. She talking about me? You?
How y'all doing today?
We're doing good. Great to be here. We've been looking forward to this and for a long time as well, and just opportunity to really share our story in hopes that it would inspire and help others along the way. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're just going to dive right into it. We want to know what inspired you. Shirron particularly wrote this book. Anderick has also authored several books, and we want to give you the opportunity to share about those books as well. But the focus of this discussion today is on the book that she wrote called Blah to Bliss and How to Have a More Blissful Marriage in 21 Days. And so let us know what inspired you to write this book.
What inspired me to write this book essentially was I really had a desire to play a role in helping other others to realize that marriage is not always bad. Marriage has begun to have a bad rap, so to speak, and people are becoming more discouraged about being married, frustrated about their marriages. People badmouth their spouses. There's the what is it? The old hag in chains kind of.
Yeah, old ball and chains.
Yeah, that this mindset that once you get married, then
fun time stop.
Exactly, you're locked down and just like this burden. And I wanted to inspire people to love their marriage and to love being married and to spread that kind of that kind of feel that this is not all bad, and that you can't. And the more that you put into loving it, excuse me, the more you can get out of it. And the other thing is that I do want to say that you can't start with a broken marriage and have an awesome marriage in 21 days. That's not what the title says. It says how to have a more blissful marriage.
Yeah, it's not like a microwave
process. In 21 days. Exactly. It takes some building. It takes some effort. And just like you can't go to the gym and become, go from being overweight, out of shape, obese, all these health problems, and then now you're going to hit the gym, and in 21 days you're going to be this fit, fantastic person. But 21 days from when you start hitting that gym, you can really become a more healthy person. You can be on the right track. You can lose some pounds. You can, be headed in the right direction. And so I really wanted to speak to that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've tried that gym thing. It does not.
You can't get it done in 21 days.
No,
it doesn't work.
And then you quit and don't go back for another year or 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, because it didn't work.
I tried tip number 9 on day 9.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and the way the book is structured, it's like 21 days to, how is it? To make a more blissful marriage. And so it's written or structured in a way that it gives you tips and suggestions for each day to follow and to work with your partner. And so I love the way that was written. So to get into kind of who you are, the first part of the book really discussed all of the trials, tribulations, struggles, good things that y'all went through as well. So could you speak to some of that? Like, I know that kind of went into, why y'all chose to write the book in the first place. It was like the journey that you went through. So could you share with us some of that journey that kind of brought you to that point of like, okay, we got it. We went through so much. We need to share this.
You want to swing at that first?
I'm sure. When you listen to people share their stories, it brings an element of humanity and reality to what you're dealing with. It helps you to connect with this person is real and they've gone through something. The people who I connect with most, that I listen to and I consider to be an expert in something or a mentor in something, the ones who I really connect with are the ones who share, well, this is where I came from. And this is what I went through. Whether it's Dave Ramsey and the bankruptcy that he and his wife went through, but now they're, doing amazing financially and teaching others, how to manage their finances. Whether it's Brian Tracy, who talks about how, the struggles that he and his family went through, financially and homelessness that many people have experienced and all kinds of things that they've experienced. And it helps you to realize that you don't have to have come from this fantastic place, this pie in the sky, in order to win.
Yeah.
And so it was a decision that we had to make. We had to talk about, how transparent do we really want to be? Because we have coworkers, we have friends, we have, people in our lives that will read this and we want them to, but how transparent do we really want to be?
And I'll be honest, when I was reading the first part of the book, I literally had to put it down. And it brought me to tears because I've been knowing you all since before you were together. And you all have known my ins and out of my marriage, all the way from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I did not know that you all went through all that you went through. And I was like, what kind of friends am I? I was like, oh my gosh, I did not know that you all were going through that. But that alone is a testament to all that you went through, and people didn't know that you were going through all of that, and you still were remaining strong. You know what I mean? From the outside looking in, I didn't know. I didn't know. So that's awesome that you can have that journey and the whole world doesn't know. Now you can reveal that journey and really reach many people that way. Do you know what I mean? It's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many statistics. You all know them well. That the type of things that destroy marriages, and we went through many of those things. And you know, it's one of those things where a lot of times people feel like they can't. You were kind of alluding to the scripture earlier in Revelation, talks about how people overcome by others' testimonies of how they were able to come through. And so there was a point, as you said, we were discussing, well, how transparent do we want to be? And then we realized that in our transparency of what we experienced, what we've been through, that was the part that was the most valuable to others who may be enduring similar situations, or you know, there are different situations, but just to give them a I can, you know, in their spirit to see someone else do it. You know, I don't know the exact date and time, but I remember there was a time when no one had broken the 5-minute mile. No one had ran a mile in under 5 minutes. It was just this unbeatable thing. And once someone did it, you know, now you got kids in middle school that are beating the 5-minute mile. It broke the idea that this is impossible. Yeah. And so in marriage, sometimes people face situations that they feel like this is impossible. How are we going to come out of this? But when you see people do it, you know, in essence, we're wanting to help others to see that they can break that 5-minute mile mark too, in reference to marriage.
Yeah, it helps to increase the belief level.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Right. So I'll get to something specific that really touched me. It has to do with you, Anderick. So it was a part where in the book it talked about where y'all had moved in with, I think, your mother, and so it was a point to where it talked about how in order to take her out, you would have to like ask for your mother-in-law's car, you know.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that, I was like, man, I just put myself in that place.
Yeah.
Like, how would I feel, you know? And like, how would I still keep like my identity with my manhood and like, you know, like who I am, you know, being in that position. Cause I've been in positions where, you know, like I couldn't afford to like buy my woman something, you know, that I really wanted to, and, you know, but this was on another level, you know? Yeah. So I was wondering how moving through that, were you able to still identify with like who you are as a man, or where you were, like, how did you move through that?
That's a great point, because, you know, I had a great father who taught me some of the early on in life, some of the responsibilities that, you know, men have as providers, and just, you know, there's certain roles that we play. And I'll be honest with you, it was very crushing to just my self-esteem, self-worth, and I would say that there were two things really that helped me to get over that. And that was the faith and confidence in my wife, that even though we were in a time where, you know, I was working since I was taught to work since I was 12 years old, you know. I remember when I turned 12 and I wanted a pair of Jordans, and my dad said, you can get them, but you go get a job, you know. And I got a paper route. He took me to, you know, do it every day and whatnot. So it wasn't that he couldn't do it, but he was teaching me that. And so she had confidence, and she often expressed that confidence in me, and her faith in me that this was just a time that we would get over and we would get through it. And I can also say that I had a great mother-in-law, who also at the same time expressed that same confidence. She never made me feel like less than a husband, and I was married to her daughter, you know. Because we didn't start out like that, of course, but she also did a tremendous job of never once making me feel like I was less than. And I will tell you today that personally, I think that if I had have got that vibe from her, that I was less than a man, that I was less than a provider, that would have immediately put distance between me and her. I would have shut down. I would have closed up. Because I felt like, again, less than a man. And at the same time, I felt like if her mom, again, beautiful lady, godly woman, had ever shown any type of resentment towards, well, I wish Shirron had married someone else, or, no, you can't use my car. Go get your. If I'd have felt any of that from her, that would have distanced me from her at the same time. But all they did was show love, and that was a part of helping me to overcome. So they didn't see where I was; they saw who I was, and it was, and they always communicated that value and belief in me.
That's beautiful. Can you all give just a quick overview of the beginning to now? Just the things, the struggles that you went through, so people know kind of where we come from. Because I know he read the book. So can you just give a quick, overview of from then to now and where you are?
Sure. We relocated to. Let me back up a little bit. When we got married, we were doing fine financially. I had a job as a teacher in Milwaukee, and Andrick had a good job, and he was making good money, and then we bought our first investment property, and so we were kind of on track to be doing pretty well. Then we decided that I would stay home and raise our children. The problem was we didn't plan for that properly. And so I did that, and we moved into our investment property to reduce our expenses. We had tenant, so we didn't have to pay a lot of bills and things like that. So everything was going smoothly for a while. It seemed like a great plan, but then as life started to catch up with us, then it was like, whoa, wait a minute, and we started to run into some pretty big obstacles, and we lost our home, and we ended up relocating to Texas, and we, as we did that, it was pretty quick, like, okay, well, we gotta find some employment, and what are we gonna do? And we knew that we wanted to get out of Milwaukee.
We were starting over.
We wanted to have that fresh start, but it was like, what are we gonna do now? And so one thing led to another, and as we were working to get back on our feet, that's when we went through some of those things. We had gone through a time period when we had stayed with my mom. She came and stayed with us in Texas as we were relocating, trying to get where she would help us with the kids and things like that, so we could find some employment. And we tried some adventures on our own to try to supplement our income, just to really try to work through those financial difficulties. And family and friends being there was priceless, to be able to work through all of that. But it kind of left us in situations where sometimes we weren't just our own family in our own house. We might be in someone else's house, or they might be in ours, or whatever. And so we were trying to figure things out, with our own privacy and influences. And it was just like really challenging to work through that and have a young family. And well, how do we teach our children that we're who we are in their lives, and help them to figure all that out?
And let me interject there. And even getting to that point, as we transition here, of course, we were able to get on our feet and get going. And I found, I had a pretty good job in sales. At one point, we were doing really well. And some things happened with the company that I worked for, long story short. And the company ended up, somebody in management did something they weren't supposed to do. And the company ended up getting shut down. And again, we didn't really have a good plan. At that point, again, we were doing okay financially at that time, but didn't really plan out long term. And so again, we ended up in a very sticky situation, tough situation here, and we ended up evicted, and that leads to a point where now we're having to stay with someone else. But to stay with someone else, it wasn't just Shirron and I who were staying with someone else. We had 4 children. Actually, initially we had 3. And 1 on the way, which again changed the dynamics of everything, because it's not just you coming into someone's house, you and your spouse. It's you bringing a 6 is big family. We feel like we have a tribe, and so a tribe moving. Yeah, exactly. We got a basketball team, and they eat like it, and they play like it, and so all of those things coming into someone's home as well. And that was the challenge. And you talked about it. We had 1 vehicle at the time, and that vehicle ended up breaking down. And this is how we got to the point where I didn't have a vehicle. You know, you mentioned that a little bit earlier, where I had to ask my mother-in-law, can I use her vehicle to take her daughter
We can
out?
afford to get it fixed.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was gone. It was dead. The vehicle died on us. And so, I had a car since I was 16, access to one. I had a car when I think I turned 17. And now here I am, you know, my early 30s, no vehicle, you know, with a family of 6. This is the problem. And so, you know, that I was I just wanted to interject and kind of tell you how we got to that point. You know, it was around a time in 08, 09 where the economy took a dip, and again, a little later than that, and we faced some real tough situations after that.
So let me just put this in a nutshell. In a nutshell, you all, they started out married, doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Without proper planning, they ended up in a situation where they were financially struggling, ended up moving to a new location without friends and family, continued to struggle financially, had some ups and downs in their relationship. It affected them in their intimacy within their relationship, within their marriage, having to live with people at a state of being homeless in different times within their life. And now they are living on cloud 9. And that's what we're going to get to. We're going to get ready to take a break. Please, if you're listening, if you want to call in and ask any questions, if you have any comments that you want to make, we're going to quickly, when we come back, we're going to dive into the book and ask them some specific questions. But if you have any questions you want to pose to them or to us, you can give us a call at 972-891-8864. Once again, that's 972-891-8864. We'll be right back with you with Bad Marriage Radio.
DFW, this your boy, Chef 24/7. And I'm new to the area, but I got your catering needs. So hit your boy up at 225-402-8759. That's 225-402-8759. Or hit your boy up on Instagram at Chef724. That's Chef724. Why go to fast food when I could cook you better food?
This is Bethel Johnson, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and you're listening to TMIRadio.com.
RootsToTheSoul.com. People say your eyes are windows to your soul. When you look at a person, as you speak with them, do you see more than just the exterior shell? When you look at yourself in the mirror, have you let go of what holds you back, your past, and have you decided if you can accept you? Are you striving to be better daily? Are you honest with yourself about stereotypes you impose on others? Make time to water your roots and feed your soul. RootsToTheSoul.com. Join K-Joy on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. as we discuss many topics that vary in these things discussed above at RootsToTheSoul.com. RootsToTheSoul.com.
Hey, this is Tony from the Cap Show on TMI Radio. Trust me when I say I know how to solve your photography problem. Look no further than Alexander Biddle. They're a company that focuses its attention on providing clients with a dynamic look and brand of art. They carefully individualize the style for each client to ensure that the product meets or exceeds expectations. They are trained in design, photography, and cinematography. If you truly want someone who puts a great emphasis on quality, Alexander Biddle is the company for you. You can book appointments online at alexanderbiddle.com or contact by phone at 817-879-0782. Again, by phone, that's 817-879-0782. What are you waiting for? Go book your appointment.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's your boy Saint, and you're tuned in to TMI Radio, local, national, and global. Yeah.
All right, you're back listening to Bad Marriage Radio, and our special guest today we have Shirron and Anderick Biddle, and what we're delving into is how to make your marriage blissful in 21 days. So what I wanted to turn into a direction of, I know one of the most challenging things that I've experienced in relationships has been communication.
Mm-hmm.
And something I want to express, but it may not be coming out the way I want it to come out, or the person may be hearing it not the way that I desire for them to receive it. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, what tips do you have for someone who has challenges in that area, as far as like how to build effective communication skills in a relationship?
That's a great question. Because communication is really like that's like the blood of the relationship. It keeps
bread and butter.
Yeah, it keeps it going. One thing is, you there's a scripture that talks about being quick to listen and slow to speak. And so quick to listen doesn't just refer to the thing that, the things that she says verbally. Sometimes my wife says something about her vibes. I can pick up on what she's, that something's going on. And the word listen there has to do with more so just paying attention. Paying attention to what's on her mind, what she's going through. And, a lot of times we listen, especially if we're discussing something where there's room for disagreement. A lot of times we're formulating what we want to say before we finish hearing out the person that we're talking to, our spouse, obviously. And so you just have to slow down and really listen to where they're coming from. Why is she saying, what she's saying? And even beyond that, when you get into a discussion, why does she feel the way that she feels? And so if I have a better understanding, again, the scripture says that dwell with one another with understanding. That's key. I need to understand how she ticks. I need to understand how certain things make her feel. And when I approach it from that perspective, I'm more able to hear clearly and then respond from a position of love. I'm able to respond with not just what she needs, but what's right and what's good in that situation, rather than just lashing out and saying whatever comes in my mind without giving any thought.
I have two tips that I'd like to piggyback on with that. What he said is so true. And two other things that are also connected to what we were just talking about with communication is that one, we made a decision very early on in our marriage to not let the sun go down on our anger. And we have done, it takes work, but we have done what we can.
A lot of work.
To try to honor that. I mean, really and truly, you have to make a decision a lot of times. Marriage is about a lot of decisions that we make. I can decide to see that you're upset about something and I can ignore it. Well, what is that going to do? It's going to fester, and there are going to be more problems that are going to be tacked on top of that.
Because I'm mad or upset or bothered, and you're acting like you don't care.
Exactly. And so that's going to make me even more upset, and it's going to make him more upset, and it's just going to build. Then in terms of asking questions, it is very, very important to be open to seeking counsel and to ask questions of one another, so he knows I'm upset or I know he's upset. I need to try and figure out why. What is my role in that? And I need to be willing to ask myself those questions also. Well, what have I done? If I've done anything. And sometimes we just want to be right. Yeah. And because we just want to be right, we might be right but not married. Yeah. As a result, because it leads us down a pathway. And so now I've proven myself that I'm right and you're wrong, and now we don't want to be together anymore. Well, was it really worth it to prove that you were right? It kind of defeated the whole process. It did, and so there's always an opportunity cost in life. It's not just marriage. It's the same opportunity cost I have to consider when I'm talking to my mom, when I'm talking to my dad, my boss. I have decisions that I have to make. I might not agree with my boss on his decision that he made about, whatever direction he wants to take the school in, or what we have to do in our classroom, or some new policy that we have to uphold, or what. I might not agree with that. But I have a decision to make. Do I want to lash out at him and be unemployed now? Or do I want to respectfully have a conversation with him and approach him and say, I was wondering why, blah, 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 blah. And we can have a respectful adult conversation. But when we're married, a lot of times we feel as though we have this right to let you know how you made me feel. And I'm going to now lash out at you because I'm your equal. Well, yes, you are. You are equal in marriage, but no matter who you have a conversation with, if you don't value that relationship enough, then you can lash out and hurt each other. And so I need to be humble enough and willing enough to determine, well, first ask myself those questions. What have I done in this matter that may have made the situation worse? Doesn't mean I started it. Doesn't mean that I may not have done anything, but I need to be able to determine that. And then also, how can we bring healing in this situation? What is my outcome? Where am I really wanting to go with this? Because the bottom line is, I want to fix it.
Yeah.
So
you had mentioned real quick about in that response about counseling, and I just want to ask a question about some people are raised and they are not taught how to love. They have not seen love between their parents. They don't know what love looks like in a relationship, within a marriage. So they go into a relationship not knowing how to love. Can you just speak to people who are now in a marriage and they may feel ashamed that to seek out counseling or to seek out books such as this to teach them how to love? And I'll just give an example. When I was married and when we were having moments, good moments, I remember not knowing how to be affectionate to my husband. Like I didn't know how to be, to really honestly, to be able to be intimate with him. And so I would be ashamed that I would have to look for information and read books on how to do that because I'm a grown woman. I should know how to be affectionate towards my husband, but I didn't know how to do that.
Right.
And so it was embarrassing to have to go get a book on how to have a more blissful marriage in 21 days. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so can you just encourage people who are out there who may not know how to love, who may not know how to do certain things to build their marriage up? How can they overcome that shame to pick this book up and read it?
may I?
Please.
Again, it's all about decisions that we make. That's where all of this goes back to, in my humble opinion. And the reason I say that is because we have to have a level of humility. Just like when we became parents, we didn't automatically know how to be a good parent. Sometimes you have to, what else do I need to do? Mom, the baby is sick and I can't figure out why. Whatever. And we're willing to go to mom and ask mom about being a better mother. We're willing to go to auntie or cousin or whoever we know has the answer to this question about being a parent. We're willing to do that in our professional development. As doctors, teachers, lawyers, whoever, we go through professional development and we're willing to seek out how to be a better teacher, how to be a better doctor, how to be a better lawyer, how to be better in whatever our profession is. But for whatever reason, when it comes to having a marriage, we view that differently. Why? For what reason? The most important relationship in your life, and we want to just figure it out on our own.
Want to wing it.
We don't want to ask anybody for help. We don't want. What reason is there to be embarrassed about it? No more than I should be embarrassed about asking how to be a better mom. I should be able to ask my friends about how to be a better mom. Maybe she's figured out how to keep control over my laundry. Maybe she's figured out how to manage the kids' sports schedules. Maybe she's figured out, and I can have that conversation. But for whatever reason, when it comes to that most important relationship in our lives, why would we view that as something that we're just supposed to know? We don't take classes about that in high school. We don't take classes about that in college. We don't take classes on that. We don't learn those things. We learn by asking. How to ask those questions is just, well, what is it that you want to know? And then we have to have a level of humility to be able to determine that there might be somebody who has that answer, and then I should be able to ask them about that.
You mentioned, we were talking about a couple of the questions. You mentioned even with health, that you there may come a point in time where you have to seek out information about your own health from your doctor. That's it's a personal thing, but there's some things that you may need to change. You may need to change your diet. And I wanted to really kind of throw in there that the biblical idea of love is really different from how a lot of people perceive it. People generally attach the idea of love to some kind of emotion or feeling. And that as long as I have a certain attraction or feeling towards you, then that means I love you. It has absolutely nothing to do with the feeling. The biblical word for love is from a root word that literally means to give. So love is not at all about how you feel. And people say love is an action, and it is. Love is a verb, and it is. But literally, when people want to grow in love, then they give to one another more. If one individual in the relationship is giving more than the other, that individual is more in love. If the other individual in a relationship is just on the receiving end, here's an interesting thing I heard a wise man just say recently. Then that really re-encourages that individual to love themselves more if all they do is receive and they don't give. And so you have to be very intentional. Arguments, disagreements, when things hurt my spouse are not an opportunity for conflict. They're an opportunity for love. If I see that there's something that she's lacking and something that she's bothering or that's bothering her, then that's an opportunity for me to really see, okay, what is she missing and how can I give to her? How can I support her in whatever manner to make her feel loved? And in terms of counsel, sometimes you just have to seek that out. People are different, we change at different stages in life, and our expectations, our thoughts for ourselves are different, and so it's just really humbling, and not just humbling, but the thing to do, as Shirron mentioned, is just to be humble and just really be intentional about, okay, what does this individual need? What does this person need? And how can I give to her to continue to show? If you fall out of love, it's because you stopped giving, period.
Man, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Appreciate that. So I know for my own life, it's important for me to have like some type of ideal vision that I'm moving towards in order to kind of keep me moving in a productive direction in life. So I imagine that it's just as important for a couple to do the same thing, have a clear vision, for their lives together and what they're moving towards. So I'm wondering, how important is that? Because you seem to agree. So I'm wondering, how important is that, and how would a couple who is lacking that take steps towards developing a vision for their lives together?
That is that is the question of the day. There you go. Get it. We from the time that we decided it was official and we let people know we were getting married, we probably had at least 6 months or so, maybe a year. I don't know. In which we just went into just planning the wedding and planning the honeymoon. And we know people who have been married or got married and they planned their wedding and their honeymoon for over a year in advance. All of that time going into how one day would turn out, how the groomsmen would look, how the bride would look. Spend absolutely less than 1% of that time thinking about the future. And Scripture is very clear: where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint, they perish. Vision is absolutely critical. If you don't see, again, many of the issues that we went through was because we started out on a good footing, but we were one of those couples that we didn't have a vision planned out for what are things going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And that's critical. The vision and the vision of your marriage, if you have one, it really closes the door for a lot of things that could destroy your marriage. Some of the financial struggles that people go through, some of the some infidelity, because I see the vision of my family and our future, and there's not another woman involved in that could destroy that. And so that's absolutely critical. I think it's backwards that, again, the most important relationships, in that of your spouse and that of your family that you have, that people literally spend, very little time planning out what that's going to look like. All the way into their grandchildren. So you want to jump into that also?
Vision, when you think about it, it is where you're going. And like he just said, if I don't see him down that road somewhere, there's a problem. I need to see what is, we plan out our careers. Where am I going in my career? Where do I want to go in life? What do I want to do? What are some of my goals? But if we don't do that together, then somewhere down the road, there may be a split in the road. Like you're on the highway. If you don't have a destination where you're both going, you're treating it as we're going to trail each other kind of road trip. But if you're in the vehicle together, this vehicle is considered our family. Well, we have one destination. This is where our family is headed. And this is where we're going to go. We're going to go together. We're going to make our stops together. We're going to grab a bite to eat together. This is our life together. Our road trip, our journey is together. And if we're trailing each other, well, we may split somewhere. I might be looking down, and here he is.
You're off somewhere else.
He's taking another road. Well, where did he go?
He
I need to
exited
call
already.
and
Yeah,
see where he is.
he got off the wrong exit.
Right.
It's a communication.
But my career should not. That doesn't mean he has to have the same career as me. But my career should not take me somewhere where his career is not taking him in life. So if my career, I'm going to be overseas and things like that, because that's the vision that I decided. I'm going to plan this thing out. I'm going to decide where I want to go in life. What my goals are. And I'm doing that without him in mind. Well, my career might take me overseas somewhere. And then here we are. We get to that day when I've been working toward this. And here he is like, wait, what? I didn't have any intentions on doing that. And so now it's our future together becomes an option. It's now, well, does this thing really work? And, well, I did love you, but, and so it becomes optional. We have got to see ourselves together for the long haul. We're in this journey together.
You said something your illustration was very good. That just, if you think about it, that most couples probably spend more time in the details of planning a destination than, their marriage. I mean, before we go we're doing a road trip, we calculate how much gas is going to cost, what are the current gas prices, where we're going to stop, where we'll probably eat and where we'll stop and let the kids, all those details, how long we'll be there when we return. Even the retirement, people plan their work career and the retirement, and and those that don't come to the end of their working days and they don't have enough money, and now they're having to, so marriage is much more important than those things, and it's a shame that we're not taught, because it's not to blame. We're not taught that you have to have a vision. You have to have a vision for where you're going. If we take a vow that says that till death do us part, then we're expecting to live 80, 90, years. Our vision should incorporate at least that. Abraham spoke to the destiny of his children 400 years later. That's vision right there.
That's awesome that you brought that up, because that's the next thing I wanted to dive into about our words and speaking to each other and speaking into our life. So what can you just talk about the power of our words and how they impact our outcomes, particularly the words that we speak over our marriage, the words we speak to our spouses? How important are our words?
There are a couple aspects to that. One is we talked earlier about building each other up. And Anderick mentioned how when we were going through some financial difficulties, if I had been tearing him down, we may not be here today. Likely we would. Statistics would say that we would not be sitting before you today talking about marriage. If I had been tearing him down, why don't you go get a job? And, why don't you this and why don't you that? If I had been ridiculing him and being hateful toward him and just lashing out in my anger, then we wouldn't be here today. That's because words would be tearing him down rather than building him up. And the other aspect of that is we were talking last night about that, and how if I don't know, I like analogies for some reason. They paint a picture. I'm a very visual person. So if we would consider our family almost like a neighborhood, so my immediate family, rather than considered just as a house, but rather a neighborhood, or even a house in individual rooms, however you want to do it. My point is this: if I do something to tear down the other houses in the neighborhood, which means my other family members, my children, if I'm speaking down on them, if I'm tearing them down, you're stupid, why would you do something so idiotic, and you're lazy and you don't do anything. If I would do that to my children, it would tear them down, right? If I do that to my spouse, it tears them down. Well, what does that do to my neighborhood? It tears my whole neighborhood down. I have to build them up. I have to speak life into them. I have to tell them how good they are. I have to tell them about, their strengths and focus on those things. And then when there is something that needs some work, then we can talk about working on it. If a house has a problem with the air conditioner, especially here in Texas, doesn't mean that you get rid of the house. You fix the air.
I felt like moving last week when my air conditioner went out.
Right.
Oh, man.
See, like, you have to fix the problem. And you don't have to tear the whole house down because of a problem. Until you get so many problems because of all the tearing down and you don't fix anything, at some point it becomes a condemned house.
You know, there's a scripture in Psalms 34 that says, "Who is it that desires life, a good life, and want to see many good days?" And it centers around making sure that we speak correctly. And I'm you know, my foundation for how we do everything is biblical, and you know, the concept there is that we don't speak evil. We don't speak and highlight the negative. You know, we speak in a way that increases the equity of our spouse. I always tell my wife how beautiful she is. I always tell my wife she's the wisest and smartest person I know. And it's not just something that I'm saying
It's not just flattery.
No. I believe it. I believe in, and I see who she is, and I choose rather to focus on the negative things. I choose to focus on the positive of her, and so in that way, I'm verbally increasing her equity. I'm increasing her the equity of her self-esteem, how much she appreciates and values herself. Even the words to appreciate someone literally means to. It has to do with increasing the value of something, an object, a person. And so I often let her know how much I appreciate the things that she does. She doesn't cook a meal for me that I don't thank her for or tell her how good it is, or many of the things that she does. And so you have to be careful. Again, the biblical phrase to speak words literally means to arrange matter. It means, in other words, you know, if we're talking chemistry, you know, you take two hydrogens and an oxygen, you can create water by how you structure those things together. If I want to create a beautiful relationship, then I'm going to speak words that are going to arrange that and reaffirm that. And I'm not going to speak words that are very negative. And I know, Felicia, you know about this. There was an experiment. You know, you spoke a little bit something that crosses science and biblical lines to me. And
I was about to
light
jump
up.
in. You open up a window. I was about to jump in there.
There's I forget the name of the Japanese scientist who did an experiment with water, and I know you're very familiar with this with water. And so you guys know this. And basically, they spoke words over water. They spoke words of peace, words of love, words of encouragement. And the water, when they froze it, it formed these beautiful crystals because of the energy that they were again, the biblical word for speaking means to arrange matter. It created these beautiful crystals. At the same time, they came back and they spoke negative and harsh and evil and hateful things over another container of water, and they froze it, and it formed these ugly, it formed these crystals that were just horrible looking. And so so it is with life and death. How we live our experiences is very much connected to what we speak, especially to our spouses.
And it's because our words structure water. And so with our body being made of 70% water, if you speak harsh words to a person, it is really structuring it's getting downloaded into their DNA. And even though consciously they can say, I want to be a good wife, I want to be a good mother, this and other, if you're telling them, you don't please me, you don't do what I need. And so no matter how much consciously they want to do those things, your words are structuring and creating their ability to do those things. So if you want a blessed marriage, if you want your spouse to come into alignment with the things that you need, wanted to desire, you want to speak those things into them. Even though you're not seeing them, you want to speak them so that you create them, and so that you help them to not just to help them to consciously, and also to help them to move subconsciously to create what you want in the marriage. Does that make sense?
Yep. Amen.
Yep. So that's awesome. Time is winding down. I feel like I could stay here for like 2 hours. We need a 2-hour show. We need to talk about that because I think we have so much that we want to talk about. We want to ask a question about upbringing. You all have been blessed to be in a marriage where, or to come from families where your parents stayed together in marriage 40 years. And I don't know, Anderick, how long your parents have been together?
38.
38 years
30,
that
yeah,
Long
38.
time.
they have been together. And so statistically, couples who come from families whose parents stayed together have a greater chance of staying together themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What advice, what encouragement can you give to people who have coming from broken homes? I mean, I have 8 brothers and sisters. Shucking. 6 of them have been divorced. All of my aunts have experienced divorce. My parents were divorced. So I come from a lineage of divorce within my within my lineage, and a lot of people have experienced that. So what encouragement can you give to people who have that in their history? So statistically, they're not going to make it. Statistically, how can you encourage them, or what can they do to come up out of that pattern?
Statistically, what you said is accurate. Obviously, it doesn't always hold true.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being because you coming up in a home where your parents are happily married, you see the example, and mostly what we learn by example. We learn by watching others, by being around others. Um, that are happily married or whatnot or what. And so that helps not just because of the exposure, but because the opportunity to learn and to imitate what's working. And so that is definitely a benefit of black, but that doesn't always hold true. If I come up in a family where there's a long history of diabetes and long history of other illnesses and whatnot, that run in my family, high blood pressure, that does not necessarily mean that I'm going to get those things. What we've discovered, and my background is biology, is that at least over 80% of the times, those things are not genetic. Those things, and definitely with marriage, these things are not necessarily inherited because Big Mama had it. You have to look at the diet that Big Mama had. So if Big Mama,
I got one of them, Big Mama and a Big Daddy too.
if they all had diets that produce these negative health side effects, and you continue to eat in the same way because that's the way that you were raised, then you're going to experience the same benefits. And so when I discover there are certain ingredients that goes into the body that create a more healthy, a stronger body, in the same way, there are certain ingredients that go into a marriage. And so if an individual came up from a background where they didn't have that exposure, it doesn't mean it's not possible. It's very possible. You just have to seek out the ingredients. Mm-hmm. You have to seek out what you need to put into the marriage. And just again, you can start eating healthy, and 21 days from now, you'll feel better. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the health issues you'll have will go away in 20. It takes time. If over 30 years you've been eating in a way that has broken down your body and not built up your body, it's going to take time to do that. And so it's more important, even in those situations, to seek out counsel, to seek out information, to learn what you need to do to experience marriage bliss.
Mm-hmm. It goes back to decision making again. Like I said earlier, that most of our marital issues go back to decision making and the choices that we make. Mm-hmm. So the encouragement to people who have come from a background that does not bring that exposure to them is the same encouragement that we offer to our students who come from families where their parents didn't graduate from college. That same encouragement that I give to my students, even though their parents didn't graduate my parents didn't graduate from college, and I went. It's that same mindset that just because this is what happened in your family's life doesn't mean that that's what has to happen for you. Mm-hmm. And so when I go into my 5th grade classroom and I'm talking to my students, they need to know that, yeah, you can go to college. You can get your degree. You can be whatever you decide you're going to be. You just have to work for it. Marriage is a happy marriage does not come from just this desire. It's work. And Anderick and I can both attest to the fact that, yeah, we may have come from families that had that, but just like someone else can't do your own push-ups for you, my mom could be a health nut. She can, be right on track with her health, be right on point. But if I eat junk food, I don't exercise, I don't follow that example, then it won't work for me either, right? So the thing that we have more encouragement than ever in today's society because we're what's considered the information age. The information on how to have that happy marriage is right there at everybody's fingertips. You just have to be intentional about it. Just like I might have to be intentional about going to the gym, working out. If I want a healthy marriage, I've got to eat my salad for marriage. I have to find out what is it going to take, and then I have to commit to it. I do, and then I got to start talking to my spouse about it. I've got to pray about it. I've got to determine, okay, my spouse is tearing me down, so I'm working on it, but what about him? Well, that's when you start to try to bring up things in a time when no one's angry. Hey, I want to talk to you about something, and things like that. We have to make those decisions out of humility and seek help when it's needed.
Yeah. I know one thing that I found to be universal in seems to be all relationships that are successful is that to keep things fresh and to do like the little things. Like everything
yes,
matters.
sir.
Like those
yes, sir.
things. I know read in the book that what was it that Day 9 where Shirron, you wrote about 52 things an individual wrote like 52 things on individual post-it notes that were just like beautiful things,
that you loved about
Yeah.
Anderick, and then you posted them up all around the room. I was like, oh, that is so nice. It's so. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. So first, what motivated you to do that, and second, how did that make you feel receiving that?
I'll tell you what motivated me, and then I'll let you tell them how I made it feel. Really quickly, what motivated me to do that is it goes back to my Anderick will tell you, I work hard on our marriage. I am very intentional about it. I'm always looking for something to enhance our marriage. How can we be a better couple? What can we do? How can we make this interesting? How can we keep it fresh? Like you said, all those things. I'm always looking for something, reading something, listening to something, because I'm doing my work to make sure that my marriage works. And so one thing leads to another, and I'm like, ooh, this is a good idea. I want to do such and such and so and so. So here's how I'm going to do this. And so I did that, and we had an indoor picnic and candles and everything, just you don't always have to have this big major budget to enjoy your spouse, so even though we had some times, we still try, what can we do?
Let me just cut it short, and I'll say that we all want to be loved and appreciated, and that made me feel how much she greatly appreciated me, even the things that are just different about me, and that she appreciated was great, and so it made me feel famous in her eyes. I felt like a celebrity, and and so if she constantly makes me feel like a celebrity, and I make her feel like, she's my superstar, then listen, there's no need to go anywhere else or look anywhere else.
Right.
I don't feel like there's another person out there that will ever value me as much as and appreciate me as much as she does. And she does a tremendous job doing that. And so again, that closes the door in many cases. Other people wink or whatever. And listen,
Not facing you.
No, it's not phasing me. You don't even realize how much I feel, and my wife makes me feel appreciated, and she values me. So that was awesome.
And to come up with 52 things.
That's a lot.
Some people might struggle with get to
Two.
like 10,
You have great teeth. I really like your teeth.
You really have to think. You really have to think. And that was the thing, is I realized how much thought went into her analysis of who she's married to. And that was like, wow, that
makes you known. You feel like you're known by your spouse. And it's good when someone can know you and you feel like you can be authentic with them and be truly who you are. And you have to be it if she can come up with 52. And she can probably go on, knowing Shirron. She could probably go on and on. She could have came up with more. But thank you all so much for sharing your beautiful, brilliant story. It is amazing to see you all. I have seen you all in just coming to your house, seeing how you interact with your kids, how you interact with each other. It really is wonderful to see, very inspiring. So anyone who gets around you all and see you all interacting with each other, you are inspiring people, even though you're not
Thank
on
you.
the airwaves. You are just how you interact with each other, how you love each other. It is very evident and obvious to anyone that comes around you all. So thank you all for, I'm glad you all experiencing this together with one another, but it's also blessing the lives of other people as you come in contact with them.
And speaking of that, the book B.A.D. Bliss is actually our publishers allowed us to give the ebook version away for free. So today and tomorrow, anyone that wants to go on to Amazon can download a copy onto their phone or iPad or tablet or whatnot, and they can read there, and today and tomorrow, and then after that is going back to normal price. So
wonderful. Can you just talk a little bit about the structure of the book, how you have the 21 days, and you have some things in the back of the book as well. Can you elaborate on that?
I sure can. The book is structured like a journal, and it is a 21-day journey. So I highly recommend getting the paperback. But if you do get the ebook, because you're just ready to get your hands on it today, which I do encourage you to do. Get a journal to go with it. It's structured to be like a journal, like a daily devotional kind of thing. There's space in it for you to do some reflecting and whatnot. And then in the back of it, we give some practical tips and ideas and things like that to take it beyond just the theory. But, okay, what can I start doing today? So that literal 21 days and then beyond, and then also we have an exciting announcement that I haven't told you guys about, but I have another book that is coming out, and this one is more of a manual where it really gets into some of the nitty-gritty how-tos on things. This first one was really a journal devotional kind of thing, but I am releasing that book, and for the next 7 days we have watch us on Facebook. We'll have daily posts. We have some giveaways and some
What
things
is your
like
Facebook
that.
page?
It is Love My Marriage. Love spelled with the L-U-V. My Marriage. So visit us on Facebook. Check us out. Like us on Facebook. And keep watch for those daily announcements, daily posts, and we'll have some giveaways, like I said, and then you can find out about the release of the new book.
Awesome. Anderick, you are also an author. Can you share with our listeners some books that you have written and you all have written together?
Yes, the first book that we authored together is called The Government Upon His Shoulder, and it was just scripture basically to teach us about the kingdom of God. The second book, the Shemitah Solution, speaks to a specific timeline on the biblical calendar, and yes, God has his own calendar. And the last book was my favorite that I mentioned, and that was Kingdom Treasury, and that book is basically about living the generous life that Jesus actually modeled for us to live, and how that in and of itself can transform the world, which again, that was my favorite book.
Cool. All right. Well, we thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
No
thank
doubt.
you.
We appreciate everybody for listening, and we will be back on August the 6th. Is the 6th?
August the 6th.
All right. Well, we'll be back. No, it's August the 13th. We'll be back on August the 13th.
Yes.
Back on August the 13th, we have some very great shows coming up. So please tune in to Bad Marriage Radio, where it is good to be bad.
I never knew such a day could come, and I never knew such a love could be inside of one. I never knew what my life was for,